Sadgurudev to all. A very warm greetings to everybody across the globe listening currently to this VOIGOS platform online weekend satsang series. I am Anurag Dev, your host of the day, and today we will be taking on to a journey of understanding about one of the basic qualities, one of the basic principles in spirituality, the attribute of Seva. Before I start, I thank you all for drawing out time from your busy lives and devoting the same in understanding, in learning, and in being a part of this journey. Thanks again to all of you. As reiterated several times on this platform itself, core philosophy of Vihangam Yoga, the core philosophy of Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj's teachings guides us towards following three basic principles, three basic attributes in life. These teachings guides us towards imbibing three basic qualities in life for the progress in a spiritual journey. First, being Seva, the attitude, the attribute of service. The second one, sadhana, the practice of meditation. And the third one, last but not the least, the satsang, the company of truth or the sacred gathering. We all know, and some of us must have experienced it, a consistent development on the path of spirituality is not easy. It demands several things. It demands honesty. It demands selflessness. It demands austerity, devotion, and many, many other refined qualities. But then one can spend an entire lifetime practicing moral ways and ethical methods to attain these qualities. And even then, it may not be sufficient. Survey, Vihangam Yoga, the teachings of Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj illuminate the path, saying the quality of Seva makes it all easy. It is the vehicle of spiritual growth. Immersed in this attribute, a Sevak may not even realize when such an important spiritual progress has become an imminent part of life. So that's an interesting session coming forward. And before I take on to that, let me introduce the global panel today available with us. The prime speaker of the day, Subhash Chandra ji, he will be joining us from Singapore, and we will be accompanied with the presence of Raghavendra ji from Delhi, India, during the question-answer session. And before we start, let me also remind that the questions during the session can be posted on the slido.com/VYGOS forum, and as well as onto the WhatsApp numbers that are currently seen on the screen. So let's start. The attribute of Seva, the vehicle of spiritual growth. Every Vedic scripture, every spiritual book, every spiritual master, in whatever time zones possible and whatever and whomever we have heard of, has emphasized on this basic principle of Seva to attain anything in spirituality. Today, now we are going to hear some relevant compositions from the Encyclopedia of Spirituality, Survey, and try to find out what Survey says about this particular attribute of Seva. Survey, as I've been always telling, it is not a derivation, it is not a taking away from some other scripture or from some other holy book. It is a live experience inscripted on a book by Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj himself on his path of spiritual explorations. So what can be more relevant than hearing some few compositions from Survey? And for that, I invite Khushbuji from India to take us forward into this Survey recitation. Khushbuji, over to you.
Thank you, Anurag Devji. Jai Sadguru Dev, everybody. The following verses are from the Swarveda, the Encyclopedia of Spirituality, written by Sadguru Sadafal Devji and explained by Sadguru Dharm Chandra Devji. जिज्ञासु में बहुत गुण, सेवा गुण एक नाही, अधिकारी वह नाही है, कर उपदेश न ताही. A person who wants to know more about Brahma Vidya Vihanga, the science of God realization, may have numerous qualities. But if he doesn't have the quality of selfless service, he is not entitled to receive initiation into the science of Vihangam Yoga. सेवा गुण विद्यमान है, अन्य सकल गुण नाही, अधिकारी उपदेश का आप आप गुण आही. Even if such a person does not have any beneficial quality, but has the quality of selfless service, he or she is entitled to receive initiation into Vihangam Yoga. Such a person automatically gets endowed with other good qualities and merits due to the presence of selfless service. धन काया मन वचन से संत परम गुरु सेव, आरत दीन अधीन हो अनुगामी गुरुदेव. Complete surrender at the holy feet of the Sadguru is required from the earnest learner. The learner must follow the directions of the Sadguru and the rules that he has made. The learner can do seva of the greatest of the saints, the Sadguru, through the following means: physical, financial, mental, and vocal. ब्रह्म विद्या परचार का सद्गुरु का जग काम, करे करावे ताहि को सोई सेवा शिष्य नाम. One who disseminates the knowledge of the truth, as explained by the Sadguru, that is, one who helps spread the knowledge of Vihangam Yoga, is one who does seva in the most exalted sense. One who does such seva or selfless service of spreading Vihangam Yoga qualifies to be a disciple of the Sadguru. सेवा जप तप तीर्थ है, मख पूजा व्रत कर्म, सद्गुरु शरण उवार है, गुरु सेवा सब धर्म. Selfless service, chanting of hymns, the holy verses, penance, pilgrimage, sacrifice, and observing fasts, all of these and other righteous duties fall under the ambit of service to the Sadguru. Hence, for protection, one should surrender at the feet of the Sadguru and serve him selflessly. जहाँ छात्र बल नीति बल विद्या बल बेकाम, कुंठित सारी शक्ति है वह सेवा कर काम. Where administrative might, law and order, principles of duty, and great wisdom do not work, or are suppressed and not allowed to work, in such a situation, only the power of selfless service or seva will yield success in all endeavors. With these words, I hand you back to the able hands of Anurag Devji. Thank you for listening. May Sadguru Dev bless us all with the opportunity to do seva.
Thank you very much, Khushbuji. This was indeed a wonderful recitation of these relevant compositions from Sarved. Very rightly said, Jigyansu mein bahut gun, seva gun ek na hai. A person can be endowed with a seeker basically. And the journey from just being a person to a seeker is also a different one. And then a seeker itself can be endowed with several qualities, several attributes, even with the highest intellect and wisdom. But even then it may not be eligible for the pious knowledge of Brahma Vidya, for the attainments of spiritual heights in life. In the absence of this one quality, this one attribute in life, the attribute of seva. I will not take all this extract away. Instead, I will now redirect my attention, redirect the focus of this segment towards the most interesting part, the what we are going to hear from the prime speaker of the day, Subhash Chandra ji. Subhash Chandra ji has joined us live from Singapore. He is an ardent practitioner of Vihangam Yoga meditation from the very childhood, and he is indeed living this attribute of seva in his real life. So I do not find anybody much more suitable and relevant as of now. Professionally, he is actually by profession and a director of a multinational company that handles 8 Asia Pacific countries. So let's straight, and he's also a founding member of Vihangam Yoga Singapore organization. So I think let's go without any delay. Let's go and hear and listen directly from Subhash ji on this particular aspect, on this particular topic of seva. Subhash ji, hope I am loud and clear to you. I'm audible to you.
Yes, Anurag Dev ji.
Yeah, Subhash ji, welcome. I welcome you, and yeah, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much, Anurag Dev ji, for the introduction. I'm very much obliged to have this opportunity today to speak on the topic. Our topic today is Seva, the vehicle of spiritual growth. But before, in fact, talking about Seva, I think it is most important thing to understand one more point, and that is what we mean by spiritual growth. It needs to be explained. It should not be vague. I would first like to emphasize the meaning of spiritual growth. I have met many people here and there whenever we go for prachar work. We met lots of different types of people. I have seen many of them use the terms spiritual or being on a spiritual path without actually being able to clearly define them, what actually they mean by that. There is nothing wrong as such. There is nothing wrong as such with that, but it can become an impediment if one is actually trying to do something concrete, such as following a spiritual path. All I want to say here is that regardless of the definition we choose, let us try to ensure that those definitions are not vague. And that's why my emphasis today here is on the spiritual growth definition as well. In my opinion, there are milestones and an ultimate goal for any growth we talk about, be it in our day-to-day life, be it in the office, or be it in the spiritual world. There has to have the milestones and the ultimate goal for it. Then only we talk about the growth, the progress, and so on and so forth. When we talk about the spiritual journey, when we talk about the spiritual path, the spiritual performance, the spiritual progress, one of the near-end milestone is actually the union of the soul with the supreme soul. And that's how yoga is defined. Sadhguru Sadafal Dev Ji Maharaj has also mentioned in the Encyclopedia of Spirituality, Swarved, Yoga Yoga sab koi kahe, yoga na jana koi, ardh dhar urad chale, yoga kahave soy, yoga kahat hain jod ko, योग कहत है संधि, योग रहस्य उपाय में जीव ब्रह्म की संधि. Yoga is the union of the soul with the supreme soul. That's the near end journey. When we talk about spiritual progress, I'm emphasizing here on the milestones and the end journey. By milestone, what I mean here is different but progressive halts. And these halts are actually on a progressive basis. We move from one to another. That's how we define the growth. And the near end, as I mentioned, is being established in the yoga. Once we reach out to that near end stage, the union, the conscious union. We don't require anything else thereafter. Nothing else remains to know, nothing else remains to experience, and nothing else remains to grow for. So we are talking about that type of a spiritual path, that type of a spiritual progress today. In this spiritual progression, we move towards the subtlety, the conscious subtlety. On the spiritual path, the progress, we progress detaching the self from the Prakriti, the Maya. We detach ourselves from the Prakriti and the Maya. The presence of Prakriti itself, the presence of Maya itself, has made us egoistic, selfish, dissimulate, and bound to it. These are real mountains for us when we go on the spiritual journey. We have to cross this. We have to cross these different kinds of characteristics which we get associated with when we go fall under the Prakriti and the Maya. How do we cross these mountains? It's a very simple question that under a path, under a journey, there are lots of different hurdles which we face. We have to cross them. When we go on a spiritual path, when we go on a spiritual progression, these hurdles, these mountains are much more bigger because you can't see them just by your eyes. These are the inner qualities. How do we ride off of these? A very simple answer for this is the Seva, the service. As Anurag Devji, you mentioned that Seva, Sadhana, and Satsang, these are the three pillars of a spiritual journey. And the same is said under Vihangam Yoga flag as well. We are talking today about the Seva. How, with the help of Seva, we can progress much more efficiently on the spiritual path. One who does the service actually becomes honest, egoless. Khushbut just rightly very much mentioned from Survey that if there's a person who is having all good qualities, but the service, the quality of service is missing, he is not entitled for something very important, and that is the yoga. But on the other hand, if there is a person who does not have any good attributes or qualities, he is not competent enough for many other things in this today's world, but he is fully loaded by the attributes of Seva. He is the most eligible person on progressing faster on the spiritual path. Different type of services are performed for different types of works at different time. However, the serviceman is indifferent under all circumstances. It doesn't matter too much to him. He is completely keeping himself away from the fame, defame, liking, disliking, gain, loss, or any such kind of things. He is completely untouched. He has only one objective, the objective to deliver the service. But one important question comes always to my mind. When we say service, many times when I'm talking to some people in office, in our social networking, people say, I'm doing my service. I'm giving my time. I'm investing my time in the service. But is it not important to understand what is the frame of the service? When we talk about a spiritual path, when we talk about a spiritual progress, it is defined in a certain way. When we talk about service, there is a serviceman and there is a master. When we talk about the serviceman is providing his service, he's providing his service to whom? The master, the supreme master. We have to understand this very clearly. When we deliver our service to that master, it cleans us. It cleans us from the inside, from within. And not only that, it helps us being consistent on the spiritual path as well. In Swarved, Sadhguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj has mentioned in one of the couplet, I'm just reading it out. Bad se bad vidwan jaga seva hi nan bhav adhikari nahi bhakti ka mukti kavan vidipa. There's one word mentioned here. Vidwan means the scholar, the knowledgeable person. If there is a person who is very much knowledgeable, he's a scholar of one particular type of thing, but if he does not have the quality of the service, delivering the service, that quality is not of that use as far as spirituality is concerned. We have to understand this very clearly, that we are talking about service being egoless. There is no I into it. There is no I into it. We are not doing for ourselves. I'm not doing for myself. I have completely devoted myself to someone, and that's the master. Service is extremely important for the yogic meditators as well, to enhance their spiritual eligibility and for increasing their resolve in pursuing the path of righteousness. We need to know what is right, what is wrong, and that comes from the service. Seva, sadhana, and satsang. I'm emphasizing again, seva, sadhana, and satsang are the prime three pillars for spirituality. Having devotion is one of the milestones on the spiritual path, and service is the first step towards devotion. We cannot be a devotee. We cannot be a devotee unless and until we learn how to deliver the service to the master. We must learn, we must know it, and that's how the service results in reduction of pride, lust, worldly desires, and all narrow-mindedness. Khushbuji mentioned from Swarved about one very important doha. Dhan kaya man vachan se sant param guru se. The service is delivered through body, through mind, through speech, financial, and through the soul as well. Let us understand these mediums of delivering the service in a little bit more detail here. When we deliver service through our body, what does that mean? Does it mean that we go to someone, we are present there, we are working physically there? True. But at the same time, if we are keeping ego with us, if we are keeping ego with us at that time point, it would not be beneficial for us. Service through physical self results in enhancement of intellect, analytical ability, courage, patience, compassion, peace, and control over senses. So the important thing here I want to connect is, when we do service through body, basically we are getting benefited to control our senses. When we go further on, devoting the mind to service, what happens? The mental energy get cleaned, purified, and oriented towards the attainment of the self-realization. The service through mind is also very important to move towards the self-realization side, changing the base from the body, from the mind to the soul. And the service through financial means in today's world, when we talk about Seva, the service, the first thing which comes in the mind for many people is the financial service. That's fine. This is basically one of the most practical way for busy people. And everyone is busy in this today's world. However, devotion of one's time towards spiritual upliftment of the society is better service. So when we provide financial support, financial service, where we are providing that service, whether it is being used for the spiritual upliftment of the society or not, that is important to know. It is okay to desire for and accumulate wealth. There is nothing wrong in it. However, it is important to use that wealth for one's own material needs in a detached manner and generously donate wealth for the upliftment of the society. So everywhere when we talk about financial service, there is a giving from the heart connected to it. If you're still egoistic, I have given so much of service, it will not count that much. It is not going to count that much for you. We have to be honest. And we have to understand the righteousness at the same time. The praise of spiritual master and God through speech is the best service that speech can be put to, the vocal service. The seeker needs to surrender. Before the master with obedience, selflessness, humility, and service the master through wealth, body, mind, and speech. We have to focus on all these attributes. Service needs to be delivered without ego. If there is any ego at any one point here and there, it is not going to fulfill your real objective. Sadhguru Sadafal Dev Ji Maharaj has mentioned in Swarved one more couplet. I've just recited. Apa aap mitaya kar Sadguru sharan hi lag, ek sang guru aap nahi, ek gyan guru jag. Till the time we are hanging with the ego, we would not be able to perform our best service to our master. The service calls for self-control and leads to overall purification and spiritual upliftment. Service through the soul leads to the salvation. That is the higher level of service. For that, we first need to reach out to the level of soul, not just at the level of body or at the level of mind. We have to reach at the level of soul. Then only we can do service through the soul. Spiritual progress. It is very clear that spiritual progress is impossible in the absence of service. Many people do service for the nation, for the society, for their parents, for their teachers, guests as well. In India, we say Atithi Devo Bhava. We provide our service, we deliver our service to our guests, our elderly people. These are all good. These are very good habits. These are very good sanskaras as well. But there is a need for the service for one specific thing. And I want to bring your attention here. Which one of all these, what we are talking about, is the best service? Because we have limited time. Everyone in today's world is busy here and there. But if you have to choose which service I should do, which side I should move towards, as far as spiritual progression is concerned, which one is the best to choose if I have to choose? When we talk about spiritual progression, spiritual growth, in my opinion, and probably you would second it as well, the best of the best service is the dissemination, propagation of spiritual metaphysics for the human upliftment. In other words, if I explain it more, Serving the Brahmanist master who has relinquished everything and is promoting the path of Brahma Vidya for the sake of human welfare is the best service. So, in short, if I say serving the Sadguru is the best service. I repeat here again what Khushbuji mentioned during the Swarved couplet recitation. Dhan kaya man vachan se sant param guru sev आरत दीन अधीन हो अनुगामी गुरुदेव. There are a few words here which we need to understand how we are serving the Sadguru. It is through definitely body, mind, financial things, speech and soul and all those. But the important thing is we have to do all these under the command, the decree, regulation, and principles of Sadgurudev. I repeat again, all these seva need to be done under the command, the decree, the regulation, and the principles of Sadguru. Without those, it will be directionless. It will not be the righteous thing to do all the times. Those who are most fortunate ones are those who are blessed with the presence of Sadguru, giving an opportunity to serve himself under his guidance, under his decree and the principles to progress righteously on this spiritual path. At present, under the flag of Vihangam Yoga, the most pious service is to disseminate the knowledge of Brahma Vidya, of course, under the guidance of Sadguru himself. So I urge everyone, if you really want to uplift yourself, if you really want to progress righteously on this spiritual path, you should follow the master. You should follow the master in a right manner. You should provide your service to the master. And under Vihangam Yoga case, disseminating the knowledge of Brahma Vidya is the most important one. I would close my talk with a very small doha kind of thing, or it is from actually a bhajan, but just a couple of words from there, that when we do seva, when we do service to the Sadguru, there is no point of argument there. We accept everything as it is. This is the mantra actually. We accept everything as it is without letting our ego coming in the front. We need to progress on that intelligently, and not just intelligently, but with the blessings of Sadguru as well. We'll talk more probably on some of the question and answers, because I have to honor the time as well. So with this, I'll end up my talk right now, and we discuss more during question and answer session. Over to you, Anurag Devji.
Thank you very much, Subhashji. That indeed was enlightening. Service is the first step to devotion. Spiritual progress is impossible without this attribute of service. And the service to the Sadguru, the service of disseminating the knowledge of Brahma Vidya, is the greatest service to humanity. The very key points from the talk of Subhashji does illuminate us, does illuminate our knowledge. As Subhashji told, we will talk more about this in the question answering session. And I can see on the Slido forum, it is flooded with questions, a lot of questions. Some of it our Subhashji answered in the talk itself, but we will have a little more elaboration. when we take them up in the question answer session. Once again, thank you very much, Subhashji, for your time and the great discourse that we had from you on this concept of Seva. Let's dive into the question answer session. I think I hardly have 10 minutes for the question answer session, and I will try to cover as much as possible with this limited frame of time. And for the question answer session, I would like to invite Raghavendra ji from Delhi, India, if he has joined us. Raghavendra ji.
Yes, Gurudev.
Yes, Gurudev. Raghavendra ji, welcome. I welcome you on this forum. And Raghavendra ji, we have had the opportunity of listening to him in the past sessions also, has been associated with IIT Delhi professionally, and of course an ardent practitioner, a sevak of Sadgurudev. He is a vibrant speaker. I feel very excited when I listen to him, and it is indeed a privilege to have him on this forum. Welcome, Raghavendra ji.
Thank you, Anurag Dev ji. It is indeed an honor.
Yes. So, Raghavendra ji, I have many questions. The topic is so elaborate and the time is so limited. So, we will try to take some key ones today, maybe 2 or 3, and limit ourselves in the next 10 minutes. So, the first question that has emerged today, and I thank our speakers. They have been waking up so early in India. I have the question coming even before the session started, 5:40 a.m. So the first question that came, let me honor that. So when I experience that worldly hurdles, distractions, they increase a lot at the same time when I dedicate myself to Seva. It's not always, but it's very often. How do I handle this situation? So I think it's a common experience in all those who try to do Seva, whether it is spiritual Seva oriented towards spiritual goals or social goals. It's a very common question. How do you reflect upon this, Raghavji?
Yes, so a very, very fundamentally important question for all sevaks, for all people who are doing prachar or seva of the Sadguru or a Vyangam Yog. Look at it this way. When we are studying, we pick up our textbook, we learn a new topic. At the end of it, we have a test. So we are tested on our understanding of that topic. So think about it that in the nature of, or rather in the system of Prakriti, of nature that we are living in, and we are absolutely Prakritic right now. When we are moving on from one sub level to another, we will be given this testing time to really test how much we've understood, how much we are really applying. And so we should treat that as a test, as nothing else. Another way of looking at it is Prakriti does not really want you to leave the system. So when you're really you're working against the gravity of Prakriti and moving towards spirituality, you will be held back, and Prakriti will try to hold you back. But the idea is not to be held back. The idea is to go on under the direction and command of the Sadguru. So as long as you are operating under the direction and command of the Sadguru, that anti-gravity of spirituality will pull you away from the gravity of Prakriti. So when you are doing Seva, you will see that every other thing comes. And in fact, Subhash and I were discussing this a few months ago. Subhash was telling me that when he commits himself to a certain course of action, Vihangam Yoga, then there'll be 2-3 other things cropping up. And Subhash, would you like to share with the listeners how exactly this gets resolved? Because it's best it comes from you.
Thank you, Raghavji. In fact, before that, I would like to add something more. You mentioned very rightly, Raghavji, that the Prakriti bounce it back to us. What I think here is as well that the hurdle is not outside. The hurdle is inside us. The Prakriti, the nature works on its own frame, and whatever it does perfectly. No one can question on it. And whatever comes to us, it's all just as a result of what we have done in past. So any hurdle, when we talk about, I think that hurdle comes from our within. It's us, not the outside. Now, coming back to Raghavji, what you mentioned, one example, probably when we start doing commitment, something here and there, especially when we talk about Seva, and many times it conflicts with some of our other work here and there, be it job or probably family related or some other social activities or anything. But what I'm just mentioning what Raghavji had just brought it up. Many times I have encountered that if I have committed for one particular Seva for Vihangam Yoga, and at the same time, at exactly same time, a similar activity has also come, maybe from job side or from family related or somewhere else. And I cannot ignore either of these two, because the commitment for the Vihangam Yoga, what I have made, have been made. But at the same time, I cannot ignore my family. I cannot ignore my job as well. What should I do? Both are important. And if I try to judge it on my own intellect basis, probably I would not do the right decision, because I'm not able to see everything from the holistic picture. So what I do is I just pray to Sadhguru at that time, that I am at a dilemma. I am at a verge that I'm not able to decide what should I do, this one or that one. Both are important. Both are important. What should I do? And I just pray to the Sadhguru and just leave it at that time. That's it. And believe me, at the time when that time comes, the conflict point, automatically something happens that I get the direction. And most of the time it has happened that I go towards the Vihangam Yoga commitment, and other one happened something that it get postponed to some other time. That's what has happened all the times with me. I think, Raghavji, that's what you are mentioning right now.
Precisely.
So thanks to both of you for this wonderful answer. I mean, basically, I also wanted to bring out when Raghavji was speaking, the answer is applicable to both inner and outer hurdles. And the hurdles do start for the first time from inside ourselves. So when we talk about Seva, Raghavji, I'll probably take one more question with you. So the question here is, does all kinds of the Seva, are they having the same weightage? So first of all, the speaker is asked the question, the seeker, in what all ways Seva can be performed, which I believe in the talk of Subhash very wonderfully answered. But the next question, in addition to this, is, does all the Seva have equal importance? So basically, the seeker is trying to know if there is a Seva that is higher and there is a Seva that has a lower importance. This question is mostly weightage of the Seva that we just talked about. How do you reflect on this, Raghavji?
One thing is very clear, that the highest form of Seva is the Prachar and Prasar, or the dissemination of the knowledge of Vihangam Yoga. So that is an overall objective. Now, how we meet that objective, precisely like Subhash or Khushbu had said earlier, there are any number of ways. So by way of, let us say we are not financially well endowed, or we are not very, very intelligent or academically well qualified. But even if we reach out to our own friends, our own families, and we tell them about the Sadguru, about the grace of the Sadguru, about how Vihangam Yoga can benefit them, that itself is the highest form of Seva, because it is directed towards that objective of Prachar and Prasar, or dissemination of the knowledge of Vihangam Yoga, which clearly the Swarved has put down, that one is a disciple who spreads the knowledge of Vihangam Yoga, and that is true Seva. So no matter what you do, now let us say you are in a position where you don't have time because there are other commitments, there are work commitments, and we all face that in our lives at a certain point of time in our lives. Or you have say some other commitments that don't allow you to do that physical aspect of seva, or they don't allow you to do prachar to the extent possible, yet you're able to take out financial resources and commit them, you can say that the bhav, the actual inner thing that the Sadguru really examines is the bhav. What was your bhav, or what was inside you, within you? Were you egoless? Did the service that you do, even of 1 rupee, 1 cent, or even less than that, was it without ego? So selfless service, like Subhash was talking about, when the self is not there in the service, that is the service that counts the highest. So no matter what you do, whether vocally, financially, bodily, no matter which way it is, as long as it is objective, as long as it meets the objective, and it is done without ego, that is the highest form of seva. Over to you, Anurag.
Indeed, Raghavji, and that was very clearly brought out by Subhashji also. Even survey says, Uttam Seva Jagat Ki Brahm Vidya Karjan. So when we disseminate this knowledge of Brahma Vidya, this knowledge of Brahma Vidya to the society, it is not just that we are serving one person. It is like illuminating the way for the entire society, for the entire world. So we have many questions still pending for the question answering session. And I do believe that some of them have been best answered by Subhashji and by Raghavji during their talks. But the remaining ones we will try to take on to the next session, because we have a limited frame of time to conclude for today. Thank you everyone for joining us on this session. It was indeed a wonderful session on the spiritual concept of seva and how it can enlighten us, how it can uplift us. Service is the first step to devotion. Without this, there is no attainment possible in a spiritual journey. These are the disseminating this knowledge of Brahma Vidya is the greatest service to humanity, to the Lord Himself. These are some takeaways from this particular session. And we will indeed have future sessions on the same topic, wherein we will try to address the remaining questions from our seekers. I again thank all the seekers and all the global speakers today for withdrawing such a time from their busy daily lives and devoting it here about this platform. Thanks to all of you, and let's meet each other next weekend at the very same time through the same media. Until then, I wish you a healthy and a prosperous life. Jai Sadgurudev to all.
शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति, जीव सदा फल शांतिमय, शांति शांति सुख शांति।